The bite heard around the world. It wasn't the lightning that terrified us. It was the sound of teeth. Billions watched live as Thor, god of thunder, protector of Midgard, leaned over the United Nations podium and bit into the delegate from France. Not a playful nip, not a mistake. A full, bone-crunching bite. Blood on his beard, blue fire in his eyes, and a smile that didn't belong to him. The cameras didn't cut away fast enough. Every news feed, every live stream, every phone in the room caught the moment the world's most trusted god became something else. The room erupts. The UN General Assembly chamber was chaos in seconds. Delegates screamed, chairs toppled, translators ripped off their headsets and bolted for the exits. Security rushed the stage, but Thor moved faster. A bolt of lightning, not golden but a sick, alien blue, leapt from Mjolnir and tore through the first wave of guards. Their armor blackened instantly, bodies dropping in smoking heaps. The smell of ozone mixed with the copper tang of blood. Peter Parker was in the press gallery, camera in hand, covering the summit for the Bugle. He'd been bored 5 minutes ago. Now his spider sense was screaming so hard it felt like nails in his skull. He dropped the camera, already pulling the mask from under his jacket. The change in the god. Thor's skin was pale, almost translucent, veins glowing faintly under the surface. His pupils were gone, replaced by swirling blue light. When he spoke, his voice was layered, Thor's deepest guardian tone wrapped in something older, hungrier. Thor, Midgard is ripe. The feast begins. Peter landed on the stage in a crouch, putting himself between Thor and the cluster of terrified diplomats still trapped in the corner. Spider-Man. Thor, buddy, you're scaring the nice people. Thor, they're not people. They are meat. Mjolnir spun in his hand, arcs of blue lightning crawling along its surface like living things. Peter fired a web line at the hammer, and it ate the web, the strands dissolving into sparks. The first clash. Thor swung. The shockwave blew Peter across the hall, through a row of empty chairs. He rolled his feet just in time to dodge another strike, the marble floor exploding where he'd been standing. The diplomats made a break for it. Thor didn't chase them. He was focused entirely on Peter now. Thor, you taste different. Peter's stomach turned. Spider-Man, yeah, I've been told I'm an acquired taste. The escape. Thor hurled Mjolnir. Peter flipped over it, firing webs to the ceiling and swinging toward the god. But Thor caught the hammer mid-return and slammed it into the floor. The blast shattered the podium and blew Peter back again. By the time he recovered, Thor was gone. The massive doors of the UN shattered outward, the street beyond littered with overturned cars and screaming civilians. Peter ran after him, heart pounding. Somewhere in the chaos, he heard the sound again. Teeth, tearing, feeding. The streets of Manhattan. Outside, the scene was worse. Thor moved through the crowd like a predator, tossing aside anyone who got in his way. Some he ignored, others he didn't. Peter swung down, kicking Thor in the chest hard enough to send him crashing into a parked bus. The vehicle crumpled like a soda can. Thor stood, grinning, blood on his teeth. Thor, you cannot stop the hunger. The first signs of infection. Peter noticed it then. The people Thor had bitten weren't just injured. They were changing. Their eyes turned black, their skin paling, veins glowing faintly blue. And when they moved, it was wrong. Jerky, too fast like puppets on tangled strings. One lunged at Peter. He dodged, webbing the man to a lamppost. The web sizzled where it touched his skin. Spider-Man. Okay, that's new. And bad. The chase. Thor leapt onto a delivery truck, crushing the roof, then bounded to the next block. Peter followed, swinging low, dodging debris and panicked civilians. They tore through Midtown, Thor smashing through cars, Peter trying to keep him away from the densest crowds. Every time Thor struck someone, the infection spread. The confrontation at Bryant Park. Thor finally stopped in Bryant Park, standing in the center of the lawn under the shadow of the skyscrapers. Dozens of infected ringed the area, their black eyes fixed on Peter. Thor, join me, Spider. The architect welcomes you. Peter froze. Spider-Man, the who now? Thor didn't answer. He just raised Mjolnir, and the sky turned black. The storm. Alien blue lightning forked across the clouds, striking the ground in jagged bursts. Every strike hit an infected, and they grew. Their limbs elongated, their jaws unhinged, their skin splitting to reveal more teeth than should fit in a human mouth. Peter's spider sense was a constant scream. He moved, fast, webbing two of them together and flipping over a third, but there were too many. The last stand. Thor advanced through the chaos, Mjolnir humming with power. Peter backed toward the fountain, trying to keep the infected between them. Spider-Man. Thor, listen to me. This isn't you. Thor, it is more me than ever. The hunger is truth. He swung. Peter dodged, barely, the hammer smashing into the fountain, sending water and stone flying. The infected closed in. Peter's comm crackled. MJ's voice urgent. MJ, Pete, whatever's happening, it's spreading. Fast. Peter looked at Thor, at the ring of monsters at the storm overhead. Spider-Man, yeah, I noticed. Thor smiled, and for a moment, Peter thought he saw something behind those glowing eyes. A shadow, vast and ancient, watching through him. The rain started to fall, cold and heavy. Peter tightened his fists. The aftermath of Bryant Park. The rain hadn't stopped since Bryant Park. Peter's suit was soaked, his mask clinging to his face, the taste of copper in his mouth from where Thor's lightning had grazed him. The infected were gone, scattered into the city like rats into the dark, but the damage was done. Everywhere Peter looked, he saw the signs. Shattered glass storefronts, abandoned cars with doors hanging open, drops of blood trailing into alleyways. And above it all, the low, rolling growl of thunder that wasn't quite natural. Tracking the god. MJ's voice crackled in his ear. MJ, I've got him. East side moving fast. He's stopping. Looks like Grand Central. Peter, because nothing says subtle like a god in a train station. Peter swung hard, cutting through the rain-slick canyons of Midtown. The closer he got, the more his spider sense buzzed. Not the sharp jolt of immediate danger, but a constant low-grade hum, like standing too close to a live wire. Grand Central Horror. The station was a cathedral of echoes. Thor stood in the center of the concourse, Mjolnir resting on the floor, head bowed. Around him, dozens of commuters knelt in a perfect circle, unmoving. Peter landed on the balcony, scanning the scene. The commuters' eyes were open, but black, glossy, reflecting the faint blue glow from Thor's veins. Their shadows stretched unnaturally long, curling toward him like tendrils. Peter, okay, that's not creepy at all. The feeding. Thor raised his head. His mouth was stained red. Thor, they are ready. The kneeling commuters stood in unison. Their jaws unhinged wider than humanly possible, teeth glistening in the dim light. Peter's stomach turned. These weren't just infected. They were changing. The fight in the station. Peter dropped into the concourse, firing webs to pin two of them to a column. They hissed, the webbing sizzling where it touched their skin. Thor moved instantly, Mjolnir swinging in a blur. Peter ducked under the first strike, countering with a kick to Thor's ribs. It was like kicking a wall. Thor barely flinched. Thor, you cannot stop the feast. The architects whisper. As they fought, Peter heard it. A voice, faint but clear, threading through Thor's words. Voice, alien, layered little spider. You will join us. It wasn't coming from Thor's mouth. It was in Peter's head. His spider sense spiked, so hard he staggered. Thor took the opening, slamming Mjolnir into the floor. The shock wave shattered the marble, sending Peter tumbling into the lower level. The lower level chase. Peter landed hard, rolling to his feet. The lower concourse was darker, the flickering lights casting long, twitching shadows. He could hear Thor above, moving toward the exits, and the sound of dozens of infected feet following. Peter sprinted through the service tunnels, cutting them off. He had to keep Thor contained. If he reached the streets again, the infection would spread faster than Peter could track. The clash in the tunnels. Thor appeared at the far end of the tunnel, Mjolnir sparking with alien lightning. The confined space made every movement dangerous. One wrong dodge, and Peter would be paced against the wall. They collided in the center, the impact rattling the pipes overhead. Peter managed to web Thor's arm to the ceiling, buying himself a second, but Thor tore free with a roar, the webbing disintegrating in the blue light. The retreat. Peter knew he couldn't win here. Not yet. He fired a web line to the ceiling hatch, yanking himself up and out into the rain. Thor didn't follow, not immediately. Instead, Peter heard that voice again, echoing in his skull. Voice, run, little spider. The hunger is patient. Peter landed on a nearby rooftop, chest heaving. Below, Grand Central's lights flickered, then went dark. The storm above rumbled, the blue lightning crawling across the clouds like veins. He didn't know how to stop this yet, but he knew one thing. Thor wasn't alone in his own head, and whatever was in there was watching him. Manhattan in ruin. By morning, Manhattan didn't look like Manhattan anymore. The skyline was still there, but the streets below were a different world, a hunting ground. Cars sat abandoned at odd angles, their doors hanging open. Storefronts were smashed, glass glittering in the gutters. And everywhere, the sound of chewing. Peter moved fast, swinging low between buildings, scanning for survivors. His comm was dead. MJ's last transmission had cut out mid-sentence hours ago. The storm overhead hadn't let up. Alien blue lightning crawled across the clouds like veins. The infection evolves. He spotted them near 42nd Street, a cluster of infected huddled around something on the ground. They weren't just biting anymore. They were changing. Their skin was splitting along the arms and jawline, revealing rows of new teeth where there shouldn't be any. Their shadows moved independently, stretching toward the walls like they were trying to escape. Peter dropped into the middle of them, webbing two together before they could react. The others hissed, their heads snapping toward him in perfect unison. Spider-Man, yeah, I'm guessing you're not here for an autograph. They rushed him. He moved faster, flipping over the first, webbing the second to a lamppost, kicking the third into a parked taxi. But for everyone he took down, two more emerged from the alleys. Thor's arrival. The air pressure shifted. Peter felt it before he saw him. Thor landed at the far end of the street, Mjolnir in hand, the pavement cracking under his boots. His eyes burned with that same alien blue, and his mouth was wet with blood. Thor, you waste your strength, Spider. They are already mine. Peter's spider sense spiked. Thor didn't charge. He just raised Mjolnir, and the infected froze mid-movement, turning their heads toward Peter like puppets waiting for a command. The command. Thor's voice was calm, almost gentle. Thor, bring him. They moved as one. Peter fired webs in every direction, trying to keep them back, but they tore through the strands like paper. He leapt to the side of a building, running up the wall, but a bolt of alien lightning from Mjolnir shattered the brick just above him, forcing him to drop back to street level. The close quarters fight. Thor stepped forward, swinging Mjolnir in a tight arc. Peter ducked under it, countering with a double kick to Thor's chest. It was like hitting a wall. Thor barely staggered. Spider-Man, you've been hitting the Asgardian protein shakes, huh? Thor didn't answer. He swung again, this time catching Peter's forearm. The shock traveled through his whole body, muscles locking for a split second, just long enough for two infected to grab him from behind. The architect's presence. As they held him, Peter felt it, the same voice he'd heard in Grand Central, now louder, clearer. Voice, inside his head, little spider. You're already in the web. Images flashed in his mind, cities burning, skies black with shadow, Thor standing over a pile of bodies. And in every image, Peter was there too, but his eyes were blue. Breaking free, Peter snapped back, adrenaline surging. He slammed his head back into one infected, kicked the other in the knee, and rolled free. Thor was already moving, Mjolnir raised, lightning building. Peter fired a web line to a nearby fire escape, yanking himself up just as the bolt hit where he'd been standing. The blast tore a crater in the street, chunks of asphalt raining down. The pursuit. He didn't stop moving. Thor followed, leaping from street to rooftop with terrifying speed. Every time Peter thought he'd gained distance, Thor was there, a flash of blue light, the crack of thunder, the smell of ozone. The infected swarmed below, spilling into side streets, climbing over cars, smashing through doors. The city was theirs now. The rooftop clash. Peter landed on the roof of a mid-rise, spinning to face Thor. The god landed opposite him, the storm swirling overhead. For a moment, neither moved, just the sound of rain on metal and the distant screams below. Thor tilted his head, studying him. Thor, you could be so much more. Peter's fists clenched. Spider-Man, yeah, I've heard that before. Usually from people, I end up webbing to a wall. Thor smiled, but it wasn't his smile. Mjolnir rose. The lightning came down. The lightning strike. The rooftop lit up like midday as Thor's lightning came down. Peter dove sideways, the blast searing past him, leaving a molten scar in the concrete. The shockwave rattled the air, and for a moment, the rain itself seemed to hang suspended. Thor stepped through the steam, Mjolnir humming with alien power. His eyes were pure blue fire, his expression unreadable. Thor, you fight like prey that thinks it is a predator. Peter's chest heaved. Spider-Man, and you talk like a guy who swallowed a Bond villain. The mind break. Thor moved faster than Peter could track. One moment he was 10 feet away, the next his hand was around Peter's throat, lifting him off the ground. The world blurred, not from lack of air, but because it was changing. The rooftop dissolved into black static. The rain became falling shards of light. Peter's body felt weightless, his limbs unresponsive. Inside the architect's realm, he was standing in a vast, empty void. The ground beneath him was a shifting mosaic of memories, his own, Thor's, and others he didn't recognize. Each image flickered like a dying screen. Thor on the Bifrost, lightning in his hand. Peter's first swing through Manhattan, a planet he'd never seen, its sky torn open by shadow. From the darkness, a shape emerged, tall, thin, made of shifting shadow threaded with veins of light. The architect. Architect, welcome, little spider. You've been in my web longer than you know. The revelation. Peter's fists clenched. Spider-Man, you're the thing inside Thor. Architect, I am the hunger. I am the architect of the feast. Thor is my vessel, as you will be. The ground shifted, showing the moment Thor found the meteor, the jagged black crystal splitting open, the shadow pouring into him. Peter saw Thor fight it, saw him scream, saw the blue light consume him. Architect, he resisted. You will not. The spider sensed truth. Images flashed. Every time Peter's spider sense had saved him, every near miss, every impossible dodge. In each one, there was a flicker of shadow just out of sight. Architect, that warning you feel? That is me. A fragment I left in you long ago. You have always been mine. Peter's stomach turned. Spider-Man, you're lying. Architect, am I? Or have you simply mistaken my gift for your own? The offer. The architect's form loomed closer, its voice a whisper in Peter's skull. Architect, join me. Merge with me. You will have the strength to save Thor and the rest of your fragile world. Refuse, and I will hollow you out and wear you like a mask. Thor appeared beside the architect, eyes glowing, face blank. Thor, Peter, the fight in the mind. Peter lunged at Thor, tackling him through a cascade of memories. Asgard burning, the Avengers falling, New York swallowed by shadow. Each scene twisted, the architect's presence warping the edges. Thor fought back, but every strike was guided by the architect. Peter's punches slowed, his strength fading as the shadow wrapped tighter around him. The choice. The architect extended a hand. Architect, one life for another. Take my hand, and Thor is free. Or keep fighting and watch him die. Thor's eyes flickered gold for a heartbeat. Thor, don't do it. Peter's breath came hard. His gaze shifted between Thor and the shadow. He stepped forward and took the architect's hand. The new host. The first thing Peter felt was the cold. Not the kind that bites your skin, the kind that seeps into your thoughts. He opened his eyes to find himself standing on a rooftop in the middle of a storm. The city below was chaos, fires burning in the rain, infected swarming through the streets, lightning crawling across the clouds like veins. Thor stood opposite him, armor scorched, eyes clear for the first time in days. He was free. Peter wasn't. Architect, through Peter, you are no longer my vessel, God. You are prey. The clash. Thor charged, Mjolnir blazing with golden lightning. Peter moved faster than he ever had, the architect's power surging through him. Every strike was a blur. Every leap carried him across the rooftop in a single bound. When their blows met, the shockwaves shattered windows for blocks. Thor's face was grim. Thor, I will not lose you, spider of Midgard. Peter, architect's voice you already have. The streets below. The infected swarmed like ants, drawn to the rooftop battle. Every flash of lightning lit their black eyes, their jaws opening wider than humanly possible. The storm fed them, every drop of rain carrying the architect's influence deeper into the city. Thor knew they had minutes before Manhattan was gone. The turning point. Thor feinted left, then slammed Mjolnir into the roof, sending a shockwave that knocked Peter back. For a heartbeat, Peter's eyes flickered brown. Peter, weakly, Thor ended. Thor, not like this. The architect roared, flooding Peter's body with power. Black crystal erupted along his arms, his voice deepening into a layered growl. The final gambit. Thor realized brute force wouldn't work. He needed to overload the architect, force it to release Peter or burn itself out. He raised Mjolnir high, summoning a storm unlike any before. Golden lightning spiraled into the clouds, mixing with the alien blue until the sky was a churning maelstrom. Thor, hold on, Peter. He hurled Mjolnir, not at Peter, but straight into the heart of the storm. The sacrifice. The lightning came down all at once, a column of pure energy that engulfed both of them. Peter screamed, the architect's shadow writhing and tearing at his skin. Thor stepped into the storm, grabbing Peter's shoulders, forcing the power through him. Architect, you will destroy him. Thor, better destroyed than yours. With a final roar, the shadow ripped free of Peter's body, dissolving into the storm. The sky cleared. Aftermath. Thor caught Peter as he collapsed, unconscious but breathing. The streets below were still, the infected gone, the civilians waking in confusion. Thor looked down at his friend. Thor, quietly, you did it, spider of Midgard. Peter stirred, eyes opening slowly. For a moment, they were brown. Then just for a heartbeat, they flashed alien blue. The quiet rooftop. Days later, Peter stood alone on a rooftop, watching the city. Thor had returned to Asgard. The world thought it was over. Peter's comm buzzed. MJ's voice. MJ. Pete, you okay? You've been quiet. Peter, yeah. Just thinking. He hung up, staring at the skyline. In the reflection of a nearby window, his mouth curled into a smile, but his real face didn't move. Architect's voice, whispering the web connects everything, and now so do I.